Hey YouTube, 95 K11 RS, bought in San Jose in late 95, and put a lot of miles on it. Been a great bike, running great, still running great. Just needs some TLC. It was leaking from forks, main seal, the final drive seal, the oil water pump. Yeah, it was just leaking everywhere. The vent, the crankcase vent on top of the engine. So I just went at it, took it all apart, and try to correct those issues, plus replace cables and pretty much do everything else to the bike that needed attention. So first thing was hitting the clutch, because you can see the rear main was leaking really bad, and the clutch had started slipping just on launch, so leaving lights would slip just a little bit and then would hook up. So at that point I realized it was time, so I just replaced the clutch, pressure plate, spring, the clutch itself, and the O-ring, all the components that go in there. So it's pretty easy to do. It all comes apart. Bike's really easy to work on. You don't really need any custom tools, any BMW specific, and whatever you need, you can probably just buy on eBay. So there you can see the rear main was leaking really bad, and that O-ring that goes over the shaft was rock hard. It was like plastic, not rubber. It was super hard. And engine's super clean. Compression's good. Rotating assembly is perfect. I did check the sprag up top, and for the starter, and everything was good. Just put it all back together. I got the bell housing off. You can see their new rear main seal, and I also changed the bearing for the alternator shaft and its seal. I think that's called the intermediate housing. With that off, I just pressed in a new bearing and a new seal for the alternator. And it's all easy to do. You don't really need any custom tools. That's the new seal. And that's with the bell housing back on. You can see how clean it is now. New clutch. And that's the transmission. It was working perfectly. I didn't really do anything to the transmission other than replace all the seals. Transmission's been perfect. Runs great. Still runs good now. I did replace the gasket for the gear change indicator. So that black thing in the middle there up top, that has a gasket that changes well. There's like three, four, or five in the transmission. I can't remember. Also, the fork for the clutch. Cleaned up all those bearings. Cleaned the vent for the transmission, because if that's not working, pressure differential can blow out the seals. Got new boots for the swing arm. The bearings and bushings in the swing arm were perfect. Just need to be cleaned, in perfect shape. Got the final drive on the bench, and it was a mess though. It was just from leaking though, really. It did have some wear. There you can see just how dirty it was. There was some wear on the shim for the small bearing side. You can see the shoulder in it. So it had worn that pretty good. There's about 13 thousandths of clearance on that gear. You can see the big bearing. It's going to come off on the big sides. The small side and big side. And that's the small side. That's pulling out the race there. Out of the housing. And I just use like these antenna mast clamps to protect the final drive and pull out the race like that. And so that's pressing in the race for the small bearing. And there you can see it's installed. And it's pretty easy. You can just cut the big bearings, just however you want to get it off. You can, on the big side, just get it off and then heat up the bearing and freeze the gear, and it'll slide right back on the shaft. Here I just made my own fixture with a dial indicator to get the gear lash, which I shimmed it to about, I think 3. I think it's between 2.7 and 6 thousandths when you convert it. And then I had about 25 thousandths of kind of Z-axis play that also got shimmed on the housing. So so I set it to the correct preload, and I shimmed the gear to about 3 thousandths of lash, which is on the tight side, but not too tight. And there you can see the housing cover back on. You just have to heat stuff up and cool other parts, and it all just slips together. There you can see with the new seal, and I had the drive shaft rebuilt as well, new U joints, and just greased up all the splines because that's critical on these bikes. I just use like a moly paste, and there you go. Swing arms back on. Final drive. And I did replace the rotors front and rear. That's the EBC rotor for the rear. New pads. Cleaned up all the calipers. They were all fine. No problems. I got a shim in the rear. I run a 160 in the rear. It's as wide as you can go on those bikes, and you need the shim to do that. Just some pictures of new boot. And I also haven't got a new shock from BSK in the UK. Yeah, I rebuilt this alternator, new bearings, new everything, new regulator, and the new the rubber, the things on top there, the black rubber bits for the alternator, those rubber bushings. Rebuilt the starter too, new bushings on the case, new, everything, brushes, bearing, cleaned it up. Works really good. Worked, good before, but it had some wear. It wasn't terrible, but I had it apart, so I don't have to pull this apart for a while. Same thing with the oil water pump. One half of it's the oil pump, the other half's the water pump. You can buy the kit with all the O-rings and the bushings for this, and it's pretty easy to rebuild. Everything was super clean. I could always change the oil on the bike, religiously, so bike was super clean, and there was no wear in here. Just some, I guess some coolant and a little bit of oxidation, but it was really good. Pressed in the new bushings, new O-rings, polished up the gears, and it went together easy, no problems, no leaks. Some people report rebuilding them and then they have leaks. I didn't have. That goes away, so they'll run it for a while, then the leak goes away. I didn't have any of that. The bushing sealed, worked instantly. The first start, it wasn't leaking. It's the rear view. That's the final product. A new impeller too, new bolt, just because, I didn't have any problems with it, but I don't want to have any problems with it. I did crack the front cover like a jackass, but I found one in eBay and I just repainted it, and that's it. It's all sealed up, put together there. I replaced all the guides, timing chain, the gears, and of course adjusted all the clearances. That's the tensioner for the timing chain. There's a tiny hole in the back of that. You got to clean it, because if you don't, it won't make proper tension. And mine was kind of dirty, actually. I mean, it was still working okay. It was just, I could see there was a little bit of buildup. So that's the buckets for the adjustment. It's kind of a hassle. It's kind of a messy job, but it's not hard to do. It's just time consuming. So there it is with new everything, new guides, new sprockets, gears, tensioners on. This is the front cover, the crank side, the crank seal for the front cover. And just painted the covers, try to make it look good. Throttle bodies were all taken apart and cleaned, and they were pretty dirty actually. Went through and cleaned all those, cleaned the air fuel screws, just cleaned everything up. And I used the Carb Tune to do the throttle body sync. I got mine from Dublin, but you can get them here in the States. I don't know who sells them, but I know they're here. Those little rubber boots will go bad and it'll mess up your idle, so all those got changed. Yeah, here you can see with the throttle bodies back in. I adjusted the throttle position sensor as well, calibrated that. New fuel regulator, new hoses. Look how clean the top of the engine is. It was a mess. It was just covered with oil. Yeah, I had the injectors cleaned in Sacramento. Had them flow matched, and I was missing a rubber bushing on the exhaust hanger on the left side of the bike. I don't know how it came out. It's just a mystery to me, but there you can see it's sandwiched in there, the black thing. New O2 sensor, new clutch cable, new O-rings for the exhaust. The block was pretty dirty though. It's much cleaner now. New rubber hanger on the right side for the exhaust I guess that's for the cat. Some new rubber for the kickstand. And the center stand came off because it was trashed. I always use the center stand. I like maybe a handful of times use the side stand, but it just chowed up that bearing, that bushing awful. So yeah, you can see the old one there on the right, but now it's silky smooth again. You got to remember to grease that. I don't think I was good about greasing that center stand, but it's all good. It's all fixed. Springs were fine. Everything was good. It's really smooth now. And I insulated the fuel tank. The bike just K11s just run kind of hot. That's just what they do. So all that stuff helps, especially for the fuel. Yeah, I took the instrument cluster apart. I had a couple of bulbs I had to fix. Went through, checked all the connections. There was nothing wrong with it. It just it needed some TLC. So I fixed the lamps and cleaned all the connections. And I also checked the calibration with the Caramba software. So you make this cable. It's pretty easy to do. And just connect it to the cluster, and then you can use the Caramba software to check the calibration and then adjust it. There's a potentiometer, a little pod on the cluster, and you can adjust it to get it right. So software was set for 100. You can see them at 100. So it was fine. It was close enough. There's nothing really to do. I had some switches, and the hazard switch wasn't working right, and my heated grips were kind of spotty, so I just took all the switches apart, cleaned them, put them back, resoldered the connections. There was some crusties like those on the switches, but there's some crusties in the harness there that had to be cleaned. I didn't have any problems, but I just wanted to take care of this stuff. So I opened up all the harnesses, every one of them, cleaned them, and then put some dielectric grease in there. New throttle cable, took the throttle off and cleaned that. New clutch cable, new high idle cable. Just went through the entire bike, really. Yeah, it's the new cable going in. And just ohming out the heated grips. So they both were at 9 ohms. So I don't know what it's supposed to be, but they both matched, and the grips get hot. I put different grips. Those stock ones are ridiculous. So I put some regular grips on it, and the heated grips work fine. That's the ABS computer. It's just coming out. Just cleaned all the connections. And then the insulation on many of the wires near the battery was missing, so I just taped up all the wires. That's the ABS computer. You can see all the pins. So just checked all that. It all looked good. No problems. Rebuilt the Masters front and rear because they were leaking and just not good, frankly. Yeah, I got the Magura kit. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but anyway, steel braided lines front and rear. So it's pretty much all hard lines on the bike or steel lines now. There's no rubber lines on the bike anywhere for the brakes. Yeah, you can see the front braided lines, new pads, new rotors. That's our rear pads. Calipers are fine. I didn't do anything with the calipers, just cleaned them. They work fine. And rebuilt the forks. Thank you, Dave Moss, for all your help. He, not my forte, so I talked to Dave about getting the preload right and what oil to use and how to set them up right. And they're great. One fork is compression, the other one's rebound, which, yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it wouldn't be good in a performance bike, but it works fine on this bike. The new springs, the progressive rate springs are stiffer. It just works really well. The bike is, I don't like a squishy suspension on pretty much anything, so it worked out really well. And I put a new shock on the rear as well. So I got new wipers and seals, and that was leaking pretty bad. A lot of the oil that was on the block, in fact, was even like the front of the bike was just hydraulic, or sorry, fork oil. So the tree came out and new bearings for the tree, top and bottom. So I pulled the races out as well. So I've got new bearings. You can see the new upper races in. It's the lower race. It was good to be able to get under there. I'd never had the dash off, so it was in the fairing up front, so it was great to get in there and clean. So I just froze the triple tree and then heated the bearing and just dropped right on. And that's the triple tree with the bearings. Yep, front rotors, getting rid of those. Put new Metzler Z6s on it. Bike loves Metzlers. I swear by them on that bike. Like on a track bike, Dunlops, I get it, but on that bike, Metzlers. Yeah, front wheels I had powder coated. Put new bearings in them. Advanced precision coatings in Auburn. Did the BMW silver powder. Looks great. They look brand new. Yeah, mounting the rear. New rotors for the front. That's the tone ring. I had to machine new centers to get it on. Just balancing the front wheel. So new powder, new stems. Yeah, balanced with whatever that is. I don't know, quarter, eighth, tenth, whatever it is. Balanced up real nice. Just chasing the threads. Over the years, pulling the wheel off so much, I sort of chowed up those threads. So the airbox made the airbox serviceable. Got rid of all that nasty OEM factory foam and replaced it with this RCS fuel cell foam. Yeah, way better. Cut a hole in the top of the airbox, put the screen at the bottom, so whatever goes through the filter, any chunks get trapped by the screen and don't end up in the block. And just heat forms some ABS sheet. Put some RTV between the case and the lid there, and yeah, a couple screws and good to go. Sealed up nice, and now it's actually serviceable. So thanks for watching. You have any questions? There's my email.